Good evening, everybody. Can I have your attention? Write it down. I want to welcome everyone here this evening. I'm Nikki Miliband. I'm this year's chair of the Masters Division, and I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. We are here to honor and present our Legends of the Law Award to two of Orange County's amazing legends, Michelle Reinglass and Paul Meyer. For those of you who don't know, most of you do, our Masters Division was founded in 2011, and what we do is we basically are here to serve the unique abilities, needs, and agenda of practitioners that have been practicing law for 25 years or over. Our Masters Division does several things. It provides cutting-edge educational opportunities on AI and other things, and wrapping up your practice. We also do a lot of programs that help with our new attorneys and bringing them into the Orange County legal community. Our board is unique in that we consist of both attorneys and judges here in Orange County. We have, I think, Justice O'Leary and Justice Gooding. We have Justice Delaney, Judge Slaughter, several Orange County Superior Courts. We have an amazing attorneys in the legal community that I've had the honor to work with this year. And so first, before we get started, I want to say thank you to our Masters Board. If you're on our Masters Board, could you please stand up? You all have been amazing. You've made my job super easy this year. We've had numerous Zooms, subcommittee meetings, all kinds of things, and you all are the first to volunteer. You answer every request that I throw out there for sponsorships and everything else. So thank you so much. I'd also like to thank our sponsors, which have been rolling through here. Tonight we had, I think, 15 sponsors that have allowed us to bring the price down on the tickets to where we could have this lovely venue here at the Pacific Club, who always does an amazing job for us. I'd also like to thank our judiciary, our Orange County Bar Board and Executive Committee, and our president, who's here somewhere, Christina Zabit-Fran, back there in the corner. Thank you all for being with us. While I mentioned a few things the Master does, the most important thing, in my opinion, that we do is we host the Legends of the Law, which is why we're here tonight. This is the distinguished honor that started in 2011. The award is presented to exemplary individuals who have made significant contributions to the legal profession, distinguish themselves by maintaining their highest levels of ethics and professionalism, and achieve the level of excellence that has advanced the profession as a whole and the Orange County legal community in particular. The OCBA Masters has the privilege of awarding over 17 of these awards in the past, and the two that are joining us tonight are going to make an amazing addition to an already impressive list. I now have the privilege of introducing Marjorie Fuller, who is going to present the first award to Michelle Reinglass. And she has asked me to not do a lengthy introduction of her. In fact, she said, just say, here's Marge.
What a pleasure to be here tonight and to see all you folks, and to have the honor and the privilege of introducing my friend, Michelle Reinglass, as a legend of the law. And she is one. And you know, I think all you folks already know her, and you already know why she's a legend. So I probably don't have to tell you very much about her, but I'm going to anyhow. I don't know, I've got 5 minutes, folks. So what can I say about Michelle in 5 minutes? First, I can talk very fast, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to tell you a couple of things. First of all, I wanted to tell you about my history with Michelle, which is pretty long. I first met her when she was a baby lawyer, and I was not a baby lawyer any longer, but I was trying to act like a grown-up, serious person, one of the early women back in Orange County law. So I was very severe and very serious, and I came in for a case in the old courthouse, which was then the new courthouse on Civic Center Drive. And in came my opposing counsel, who was this cute, blonde, curly-haired girl, and I thought, oh my God, what's going to happen now? Okay, all right. So we tried the case, and I was astonished because she was so good. She was so young and she was so cute, and she was so good. But she had the wrong side of the case. And there was no way that she could have won it. She had the wrong side. Something you guys know how that happens. No way she could have won it. And afterwards, when we got the decision, she came up to me and she said, oh, I'm sorry, I did such a terrible job. And I said, no, you actually didn't. You did a really good job, but here's something that you learn when you practice law. You win some, you lose some, and then you move on. And we became friends. This was back in the 70s. We became friends. And at that point, I knew that this cute little curly-haired blonde was going places, but I didn't know how many places she was going. And boy, did she ever. Let me just tell you real quickly, you know, I'm sure she grew up in Orange County. She went to law school out here. She established a solo practice because that way she could be in charge of what she needed to do and what she wanted to do. And she became primarily a trial lawyer in civil trials and primarily interested in appellate law. I'm sorry, that was me. Employment, same number of syllables, employment law and labor law, and in promoting and assisting people who did not have people who could assist them. Did I mention that I asked her to give me some background? And so I could tell you guys what she did in case you didn't know. Here's the 14 pages, single space, which I will not now read to you, that tells some of the things that she did. I will just tell you the main thing that she did, which not all of us have done, which is she always did what she thought was right. Whether it was hard, whether it cost her money, whether it cost her time, or whether it cost her anything, if she thought something was right, she did it. And that was true of her charities as well as her law practice. So those of us who say we've done good things in charities, we write a check or we go on the internet and we send some money. And what does Michelle do? Well, if she wants to work for Children's Hospital Chalk, she dances in the Follies every year, taking the time out of her sole practice or trial practice to sit down there and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and dance. When she wanted to work for the Wise Women's Shelter, she didn't just write a check. For 27 years, she gave a New Year's Eve fundraising dinner. When she was working for the United Way Women's Philanthropic Fund, she and her group won a Guinness World Record for putting together the most support group, the most, what do you call it? What's the name of what you put together?
Health kits.
Health kits in the shortest time of any. How many of you know somebody who's in the Guinness Book of Records? Michelle. Okay. Did I mention she was the bar president? Oh yeah, she did a lot of stuff for the bar as well. The main thing she did was that she says she's the proudest of was presenting the Gender Equity Committee to the Orange County Bar Association. This was 1993, folks, and those of you who were practicing law, and particularly those of you who might have been women practicing law, might have remembered what things were like then. Michelle started this committee. People laughed to begin with. People thought it was a joke, but boy, by the time she was done and we were done, even the state Supreme Court asked us to put together brochures and programs for the judges and the lawyers throughout the state. But I want to tell you one more thing that Michelle did, and this is the thing that I'm the proudest of, and that I hope she is the proudest of. because it has to do exactly with the kind of person she is. She was involved a number of years ago in a substantial trial where she was a sole little woman practitioner up against a very substantial law firm and a very substantial senior partner in that law firm. And she tried the case, and she did not win. And afterwards, I saw her one day, we went out to lunch, and she was looking through transcripts and looking through transcripts. I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "There was something wrong with that trial. It wasn't fair. I was treated badly as a woman. I was treated badly by the judge. I was treated badly by opposing counsel, and it wasn't right. It wasn't right. I have to do something about it." And I said, "What are you going to do about it?" She said, "Well, I'm going to appeal. And I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen to women again." And I said, "You know, women lawyers complain a lot. Yeah, because I'm a woman. Yeah. Are you sure it wasn't just, you thinking something bad happened?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Let me read the transcripts." And she was right. It was bad. And she said, "I'm going to go forward and I'm going to see this doesn't happen to other people." And I said, "Don't do much. No. You got to take care of your place in the community. You've got to understand what you're doing. You've got to understand what happens if you try and take off against somebody in a major firm, if you take off against somebody who's a judicial officer." And she said, "Do it." And I said, "Don't." And there were at least 400,000 other people who said, "That's a slight exaggeration." "Don't do that, Michelle. You will ruin your reputation. You will have a terrible time in this community." And she said, "I'm going to do it." And she did. And she appealed. And I went with her to the Court of Appeal. And I got to sit there and watch her make her presentation. And I got to sit there and watch the late, lamented Court of Appeal take up her side of the case and say, "You shouldn't have been treated like that. That wasn't right. We're going to fix it." The late lamented Justice Reinglass, who could be as crabby as anybody, said, "You're right." Maybe not in those exact words, but those were the exact words of the opinion. And the rest of us said, "Damn, Michelle, you were right. We told you all along you should have gone forward." I was so proud of her. And she had more guts than anybody I know to go forward with it, more than I would have done. I would have backed off and protected myself a little. So there are a lot of other things she did, but I'm out of time. I wish I had another 45 minutes to tell you some of the other things that Michelle did. But she's moved on. She's worked to help other lawyers, particularly to help women, to help people in employment law. She's moved on to mediation. She's moved on to writing and counseling and helping people make the best that they could be of themselves and always remember to do the right thing. And I am so pleased and so proud to say that I am her friend and I am her admirer, and I get to present her with the award for a legend of the law. Michelle?
Music and everything.
You go, girl.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Marge, for your overly kind comments. And I just want to say I've always had help, and Marge was a huge help in a number of these things. And so I appreciate that. So I don't get all the credit. There's just a lot of people who are good souls and will step in and help, and I appreciate it, every one of you. So I first want to say thank you to, by the way, I'm going to probably look down at my notes a little bit, and I'll tell you why. Marge kept me on a really short leash because she knows I can wander as I'm talking, and I might tell you the entire story. So to stop me from telling you the entire story, I might just glance down, so just so you know. So thank you very much to the Orange County Bar Association, to the Masters Division, and to all the nominators for this award. I am so appreciative of the recognition of the work that's been done with and for the Orange County Bar Association. And Marge, you just have no idea how much I appreciate you. And I do want to mention, well, she wasn't allowing me to mention anything because I would probably talk too long. But she said I could have to do one thing. I'm going to do two, but they'll be in the same sentence. So I hope that counts. So basically, to show the sort of the foundation of the friendship that was built, that first Trump case that I had, by the way, I didn't do family law at the time, but it was a family law case with a lot of deep stuff going on. And I ended up having to do the trial. And I was a puppy lawyer, as you said. But there were a couple things that I saw, and that was how revered Marge was in that courtroom. So when she walked in, and everybody checks in, and so everyone's going, "Oh, Mrs. Fuller. Hello, Mrs. Fuller. Mrs. Fuller, Mrs. Fuller, Mrs. Fuller." I think it was just like all over the place. And so I said, "Gosh, she's like a rock star. She's like a movie star here." And then I went to check in, and they said, "And you are?" I said, "Michelle Reinglass." They go, "I'm sorry, what was that? Spell that?" So, but it was seeing her in action, and she was an eloquent litigator. And these were learning points I was doing in the trial, thinking of, I got to keep that in my head. So I was learning from her. And on top of that, just the kindness that she showed, because I'm a loser in this trial. And by the way, there was almost no way I wasn't going to lose the trial, but you always have that hope. And so she just was very kind to me. And when you're a puppy lawyer, you never forget, that kindness and it stays with you. And I can name all the people that have done things like that. So just those things, and then later on helping me in that other trial she was talking about, just not only did she never say no to anything, she would just dive in and say, "You need help here." So, and you can't say no to Marge. So, as a young 20-year-old woman, a law student who was working in a bank during college and law school, I had no expectation. I never even thought there would be anything that I would do that would warrant me standing here at this podium. And in fact, I thought that my career in law was already doomed before I even got started. So I'm working at this bank 5 years, and when there was an ad for our law department for a law clerk, and I applied for it. Got lost in LA. It was really rough there, but finally made it to my interview, and they managed to give me the job. I was excited. I was super, super, super excited. It was my first law job. Does anybody here remember the first time you had a law job? If you can think, remember that excitement? Okay, that's how I was. And so I couldn't wait to start. So there I am. It's Friday, almost evening, and they finished my going away party, and the head of HR comes in, and he says, "Hey, Michelle, I've got some good news and some bad news." I said, "What's the bad news?" And he said, "Well, it's not really bad news. It's just like, they just need to start you as a legal secretary, and, we can work in later." I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, they're not comfortable with you being a law clerk." I said, "Why?" And they couldn't give me an answer. He just said, "Look, just start as a legal secretary and they'll get used to you." I go, "Get used to me? What's this about?" And he couldn't talk to me. He just said, so we started going in circles. And I just finally said, he said, just show up on Monday morning, you know, for your first day, and, you know, everything's going to work out. I said, as a law clerk? No, as a legal secretary. My eyes filled with tears. I grabbed everything. I had already packed up. I packed everything up. I'm sobbing, and I just said, I quit. And I ran out the door and left the bank behind forever. So I really thought I was just doomed. But instead, I drove to my law school. And I will date myself with this. I went inside and I pulled a pin out of one of those little cards that says job opening, and I applied for it and I got it. So all was okay. So somehow I got to stay in the legal process. So, and Marge mentioned one of the things that I am most proud of is the Gender Equity Committee. It had been something that was on my mind for years. And I probably pestered everybody I knew to, come on, don't you think this is a great idea? You know, and like, not really. Well, they didn't say that. They just were like, they have other things to do, which is just all fair, you know. But when I wasn't even president yet. It was, you know, leading into that, I started putting together, and I reached out to Justice Sheila Sonnenschein and to Marge, and they gratefully accepted my ask for them to be co-chairs of this committee. Not only that, Justice Sonnenschein, who was a very busy person back then, and probably still is. So it's December. I'm not even in office yet. I am not president yet. I haven't become made president. And so I just confirmed with Justice Sonnenschein, I just make sure we're going to go forward with the committee, and you know, talk to Marge. And she said, yeah, let's set a meeting. We had a meeting in December of 1992. Which was before the, you know, that. So anyway, it got rolling like crazy. And we had a mix of judges, lawyers, women, men, all helping to just doing amazing work. And I was so proud of the work that was done. The handbooks were made, materials. We had a hotline for anybody, you know, being harassed. Just people were fanning out, speaking everywhere. And there's some of you here who are actually on the committee. So thank you for that. What I'm also proud of is because towards the end of my presidential year, we started talking about expanding that committee. And it was expanded. Basically, the mantle was picked up and others started getting it as my term was ending and turning that in. And I'm not saying that that's the exact same route, but it's turned into today to probably one of the strongest DEI committees, I think, anywhere in the country. So I'm so proud of the people who have continued on with it and morphed it. So somewhere along the way in life, I realized I was naturally drawn to helping people. Marge talked about that, whether it's as a lawyer or as a mediator or in any capacity. And I think a lot of lawyers feel that way. I think the majority, I really do have that Pollyanna view that the majority of lawyers actually do care about their clients, and it's really a passion for them, and it matters. And so I think that's what we all do. At some point in time, we have been helping, we're all helping. Everyone in this room has been helping others. And there's a sacrifice sometimes, but we don't even notice that it's a sacrifice because it's something that we love to do. And what I've learned, so anyway, I was just going to, now I'm getting you the closing. See, I'm keeping within limits. So I think it was the U.S. Supreme Court, Justice Joseph Story, and also Justice Blackstone are credited with this, but I think others were as well. The quote of "the law is a jealous mistress." You can call it Mr. maybe. But indeed it is. Some here are still practicing. Some people are retired. Some people are thinking of retirement. So whatever stage anybody is in, one of the things that I've learned over the years is the importance of having balance in our lives. I lived most of my life, especially my law life, rushing from here, rushing there. And I see that stress in the lawyers that I work with today. And I see it very heavily as well. So for me, in one of my rush days, it took a green smoothie spill, slip and fall concussion to convince me that I needed to start doing a little bit of slowing down and shedding of things and look more inwardly and work at trying to get more balance in my life. And since I've been on that path, I'm kind of on a big mantra for me to be saying, trying to get people to talk about balance. And I'm not talking about the balance everyone thinks it is. It's that there's a lot of different ways that it can be conceived. It doesn't have to have perfection, but so one way or another, finding that some kind of balance. So the legal profession is statistically one of the top most stressful occupations. I don't know if anybody knows that. Not even a doubt. You're up there with doctors. You're up there with first responders. I mean, I could go on. So I've done a lot of study on this, and it's kind of amazing. And you probably don't need me to tell you the numbers of occasions people illnesses or, you know, other things, adversities, I'll just say, that they've gone through as a result of that stress. So I want to leave you with just a request to try and always remember to do something. Look at what you're doing in your life. Or do you have space? Do you have any space in your life for you? And if you don't, make some. And with that, I just want to say I am so humbled and honored for this award. Thank you so much, very, very much.
Congratulations, Michelle. I also, just what I'm getting ready to, one of the people on our master's division board believed it to be Michelle's birthday today and brought a cake. And so we're going to give her the cake. However, her birthday is not until December, but that's okay. It's an early birthday. Okay, congratulations. And I have to say, when I was president of the bar and our bar went through a couple of tumultuous times, Michelle was always there. And I can say probably for everyone here and every past president that's here, if she's ever been called on for something, she showed up, she works on it, she helps everybody. So thank you and congratulations, Michelle. I now get to introduce our next introducer, Justice Williams Besworth. And again, I was told not to make a speech. And in fact, I knew he would come up here and cut me off, and he's already headed this way. However, I do want to make a quick announcement before he gets up there. We are the Master's Division and the Appellate Committee of the OCBA, or Appellate Section of the OCBA, will be doing a retirement party for Justice Besworth. And that is going to be on November 12th. I just want you to put that in, save your date, and details will follow. So without further ado.
Unaccustomed as I am to public speaking. I am nonetheless going to attempt the impossible. I've been given 5 minutes to sum up an individual whose friendship I have benefited from for 51 years. I can't do that, but I can fill the 5 minutes. I met Paul in 1973 when he joined the district attorney's office. He was a year behind me in becoming a deputy district attorney. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was the last time I would ever be ahead of him. While I was bumping along, trying to find a niche in the office, something that didn't involve heavy lifting or deep thinking, Paul was zooming to the top of the homicide panel. For those of you unfamiliar with the district attorney's office, the homicide panel is reserved for the most talented lawyers in the office. These are the prima ballerinas, the star pitchers, the leading men. These are the people the hundreds of lesser lights in the office aspire to be. These are the people who try murder cases. They are what one of my colleagues once called the fighter pilots of the profession. There are no bigger cases than murder cases, and trying them in a major metropolitan area. You got 3 million people in Orange County, 3 million people in San Diego County, 10 million in Los Angeles County. That's a lot of lawyers out there, a lot of great talent available to someone who's facing a murder case. So those cases draw legal representation from the most highly skilled lawyers in the profession. And putting them on against those people is a challenge only the best lawyers are up to. Paul was and is one of those lawyers. As one of our judges put it to me on Tuesday, Paul is very smart, knows the law, and can handle the most arcane legal issues. On the other hand, he is low-key, believable, and very effective in front of juries. Few lawyers have both those skills. That is why both the DA and the public defender have writs and appeals sections. Paul is, however, the complete package. He can do it all. I'm not sure I can adequately express just how rare being able to be a book lawyer and a trial lawyer is. Being a book lawyer who can try a case is as rare as being a pitcher who hits .350. And in Orange County, we know how rare that is. The skills are just completely different. It's like singing an aria on Friday and playing banjo for Leonard Skinner on Saturday. But Paul could do that. You can tell how good Paul is by just looking at his client list. When Orange County went into bankruptcy, Merrill Lynch hired Paul Meyer. Out of all the lawyers that were available, with millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars on the table, Merrill Lynch went to Paul Meyer. When a Saudi princess was in trouble with the law and needed somebody to represent her, she went to Paul Meyer. Obviously, she had the money to hire anyone. She chose Paul Meyer. He's represented Dennis Rodman for 25 years. I don't know how he has time to represent anyone else. And he is the go-to guy for the judges. When a judge gets a call from the Commission on Judicial Performance, they call Paul Meyer. The judges who see all the lawyers all the time and know who the best are, they go to Paul Meyer when they have to go to the CJP. Here's what a local lawyer, named partner at a prominent firm, had to say about Paul. When I was a young deputy DA, Paul was the deputy I respected most for his combination of intellect, character, charisma, and outstanding trial skills. He was and still is the lawyer's lawyer. Despite being acknowledged as one of the finest trial attorneys, so deserving of public acclaim, Paul doesn't seek the limelight and in fact avoids it to advance the best interests and defenses of his client. It is astounding how many high-profile cases he's defended, which quietly melted away, garnering little or no press conference. That is an underappreciated skill, and it is Paul Meyer's superpower. Some of Paul's biggest successes have come outside the courtroom, often completely out of the public eye. Paul is the nonpareil master of convincing prosecutors not to file charges, or if they've already filed them, not to pursue them. His courtroom and newspaper appearances are just the tip of the iceberg. Many of his biggest wins are well under the surface of the water. As one prosecutor put it, I never knew how he did it. He'd sit there nodding and agreeing with me, acknowledging the weaknesses of his case, never raising his voice, never bluffing or posturing, just nodding and smiling. And half an hour later, he'd walk out of my office with exactly what he wanted. It was like some kind of hypnotism. Hypnotism, it is not. Charisma is almost the right word. Character probably comes closest. What it amounts to is that when you sit down in a room with Paul Meyer, you know he's the best human being in the room. That's true whether you're in your office or Dodger Stadium. That makes him an easy person to talk to, but a damn near impossible person to get the better of. He's a combination of great intellect, unblemished integrity, and a heart bigger than an elephant's liver. I have no idea how God found room for a heart that big in that skinny little body. But I know a lot of people who are grateful he did. All of that adds up to character. All his 7 spades worth of character. All of us here tonight know that it's great for the community, it's great for the law, and it's great for us to have a friend like that. I am so proud, not just to follow the 2 women whom I've gotten to follow to this lectern, whom I admire greatly, but to present this award to Paul Meyer, one of the legends of the law.
Well, if you need a definition of intimidation, it could be to follow Bill Bedsworth to the lectern. So with that, I'd like to say thank you and good night. There really is nothing more humbling than to follow Bill. The legends of the law just doesn't seem to fit, you know, to somebody like myself, who I consider a work in progress. You continue developing things as you go forward. To follow Michelle Reinglass is really an honor. I think that the heart of practicing law is a lot like we just heard about first responders. The building's on fire, people have a horrendous problem, and you don't step back and say, oh, how is that going to affect me? Or, wow, I could lose this case, or I could go under with this. You just jump in. And I think the big answer to that is a love of humanity, an understanding of humanity. I mean, everybody in this room, everybody who practices law or practices life with somebody who's practicing law, it goes to Michelle. God, what a woman. You understand exactly what that means. It takes a great amount of passion to be so excited, to be of help, and to be able to step in and help somebody's life. And that's really what the essence is. I graduated from law school never, ever thinking I would do criminal defense. I served on the UCLA Law Review with Rich Feibel. So Rich and I know he's hearing this, have known each other for so many years, and you will never find a more understated, kind, sweet, and strong-willed, intelligent person than Rich. So if we're talking about legends, I think he's clearly a legend. I consider him to be a mentor. I've always considered that. And there are so many people that we all depend on as you develop and practice. I was cracking up when I heard Michelle's story about how she first started work. Well, my first legal job was at age 16 when I was working in a factoring company doing letters, and I was sending them out in Los Angeles, and learned that the letters would land up in a law firm that was on the top floor, and I thought, wow, it'd be great to be a clerk. I've always wanted to be a lawyer. That was my goal. So I go up there on Monday morning and ask if they need any help. No, they never did, at least for the first 12 weeks, I think. But by week 13, they said, let this kid in here. This was a law firm with 4, I would say, old people in it. There was, you remember Judge Gittleson? He was a practicing lawyer after he lost the election due to the school busing in LA. Went to work there. Lou Hoyt, Sam Bloom, these are guys who were probably in their 80s, 4 of them. And they said, yeah, let the kid go in there. So I got a chance to sit in the library and watch these guys yell at each other, grab books off the shelf, argue their points, throw the book at the other person. It was heaven on earth. So we've all started, you know, everybody got interested in the law in some way or another, and that's true for me, and it's been a burning passion. I think to get into the being of service and helping people in times of distress. I mean, you know, my practice is criminal defense. I get people whose house is on fire, their life is upside down, they're coming in, it's a distress call, sometimes it's at midnight, and the ability and the privilege to be able to move into somebody's life, look at the moving parts, and try to put it back together again is such an honor. When I was called about this award, I said, you know, I'm not retiring. And they said, no, it's not a retirement award. I said, okay, because I've got, you know, I'm still a work in progress here, and I'm sure I'll get it right in a few years, so I just keep going. At this point, I'd like to talk about some of the real legends of the law that at least helped me, and thank them, even though they may not be here. I don't know how many of you recall Cecil Hicks, who was the DA when I first joined the DA's office. And we'd have these meetings with the DAs, and he would say 2 things. He'd say, 1, you were hired for your intelligence and your discretion, and we expect you to use both. And he would also say, you have to stand up and stick your courage to the wall when the other side is saying, Your Honor, we'd really like to continue this case, and you're terrified that this case is not going to go the way you think it's going to go, but you stand up and say, I'm ready, instead of I'm giving up and I'll just move to the next stage. We all know how terrifying it is in trial. I mean, Michelle knows when you're first starting. Good God, I mean, against Marge Fuller, who was one of my mentors, you know, when life is going in the wrong direction and you need somebody to talk to Marge. Although you will talk to Earl, her husband, on occasion. He's also very helpful at this point. So I've always thought that your character is an assemblage of moving parts that you've gleaned from other people. I look around this room and I see so many mentors in part and pieces that have helped develop the right thing to do, when you do it, how you do it. And it's just a part of life. So at this stage, I have a few other legends that I wanted to thank. One of them is Frank Brasino, who is not here, but is listening here. Walking into his office and saying, you know, what's the next step in this murder case? I shared an office with Dave Carter. We worked for 5 years. It wasn't like I was sharing an office next to Dave. There was a double office that overlooked what they call Lake Marilees in front. That's the old supervisor in front of the courthouse. Dave had one desk, I had another desk. We were in there two totally different people. You know, somebody practicing Zen Buddhism and trying to get holistic with life, and Dave with his golden monkey on the desk. We had so many discussions about how to try cases and when to try them and how to go forward with that. It was such an exciting pilot kind of time. You still feel that when you get a call in the middle of the night and there's somebody who really needs help. You just jump in with both feet because it's an opportunity to do the thing that you love the best. I'm looking at Andy Guilford, who worked with me when he was at Shepherd Mullen on some really complicated cases that took us all over the country, and the learning experience from that is just tremendous. So other mentors, you know, include Steve Bromberg, who just passed. You would, and I had the great honor and privilege of being in the hospital with Steve, you know, a few days before he passed, and we were holding hands, and he looked me in the eye and said, "God, I love this job. I love it." And he was holding on to life and holding on to me, and I was holding on to him and recognizing that that's what the essence of life is really all about. And anybody who practices law in any particular area is really in tune with that essence of life. That's what practicing law is about. That's why it's like first responders or jumping in and helping people. That's the privilege that you have when someone calls you and needs help, or you're able to take steps to really help somebody put their life back together. So I'm just a work in progress. And the mentors that I've had are just parts and pieces of what has been fortunate enough for me to create an ongoing practice of law that I truly love. There's two mentors that I need to mention beyond that. One of them introduced me, a person who is folksy and strong and funny and penetrating at the same time. Talk about a combination of character attributes that people depend on and that kind of flow through this county. The other mentor is sitting here in the front, and it's Michelle, the love of my life for a long time. Michelle is not tall, but she was 6'2" when we married. And carrying me and listening to all the worry and strain that we all know. You know, you can have passion in trying to help somebody, but there's this balance between professional distance between you and the person's problems, so you can follow that advice that the psychiatrist gave me years ago. Remember, it's the patient that has the disease, so that you don't get so entwined with it that you can't be effective. And you still have the balance and passion. So at this point, I just want to thank you, Michelle, for putting up with this for so long. And I want to leave you with the last thing, and that is, all of us have benefited from people that we've known and depended on and loved, partners and colleagues and friends at a time in distress, or whose characters you have kind of emulated because, oh, I'd like to be more like that. Take a moment and thank them, whether it's your significant other, your husband, your wife, your partner, a close friend, or someone. Take a moment and just break the dramatic distance and just tell them how much you really appreciate it. Because that's, to me, what the essence of life is. Thank you so much for this award to someone who is still a work in progress.
We've just heard four amazing speakers, and I want to say, can we give a round of applause again, one last time for both of our husbands, Michelle and Paul. Thank you. And just out of curiosity, before we adjourn, how many people in here, and this is the perfect room to ask, how many people in here remember how to actually, or have shepherdized a case? Where else would you see that many people raise their hand? I love that. But anyhow, we have the room until 7:30, and if, please mingle, there's food, drinks, mingle with your colleagues, with your friends, and enjoy it. And again, thank you very much. And there's cake.